It's on the radar. I don't know.
And now, Detailing Success and PNS Double Black present the Renny Doyle Podcast, a podcast for blue-collar entrepreneurs. Hosted by the detailer of Air Force One and founder of both Detailing Success and the Detail Mafia, Renny Doyle. And now, here's Renny.
Yeah, Chris, Michael's telling me to fix my hair. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, you probably should. It's a little messy this morning.
He's got cool hair. So, hey, good morning, man. How's everybody doing? Everybody good, I hope. We've got Michael's here. Really, I'll let him introduce himself. Good friend of ours. He's been on the podcast before. A year ago right now, he was in Vegas talking to our think tank, the Mafia, and we had you as a guest speaker. A lot of people, when we announced this, were going on and saying, oh, man, dude's, he's gold. He's going to lay it down. So introduce yourself.
We had some fun, right?
We had some fun. Yeah.
So my name is Michael Barnett, customer service expert. I try to help businesses move their business from acceptable customer service to exceptional. And there are 6 core practices that we talk about that help people to do that. And that's in the book, Customer Relationship Imprinting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just all about what can we do to kind of help somebody's business. Maybe already have great customer service, but how can you make it exceptional?
Right. And things are changing. The world's changing.
The world is changing a lot
in a year. But has it? I mean, a year ago, we're talking about how we're on, we're all watching the economy. We're all expecting it to reset. I don't know how. I mean, you think it's just going to collapse, or you think it's going to just be a reset, kind of correct itself a little bit, or what are you thinking?
I think the biggest thing is, as entrepreneurs, you have to be prepared for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to your service, if you're at the top of your service game, and if you are delivering exceptional service, you're providing some sort of service that people can't live without or don't choose to live without because they want to pamper themselves.
Right.
You'll be fine.
Right.
But in terms of the actual economy, yeah, it's a scary time. For sure.
Well, it's weird because we got everything in, with Israel going on. We've got the East, I mean, it's just,
election year coming up.
Yeah, election year coming up. We've got, inflation's just stupid, government spending. And then, I'm going to make this point. We're going to talk about it a little bit. And this really is just, Chris always says this, it's a conversation, kind of you and I, we go all the way back. So a little history. We went to high school together.
That's
so
right.
These poor guys. So they bust these guys from Grand Terrace because I lived on the bottom section, right? They lived up on top. They bust you guys down to Colton High because you guys, Grand Terrace didn't have a high school, right?
That's right.
What was your first day impression of Colton High? Was it a little weird? I've never asked anybody from Grand Terrace that.
It's so funny when people talk about that. They remind me that I came from Grand Terrace, but it never felt like, I'm amongst people I didn't know or didn't look like or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never. It wasn't until after the fact that people were like, "Hey, you went to Colton? No, that was predominantly Hispanic and predominantly." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess it was."
Because it's fun. I always say
I noticed that it was good food everywhere.
Yeah,
right?
It was.
And good friends.
I remember because Colton Junior High was rough, and I remember the first day of high school, I was going, "Man, this is going to be cool," And it was a melting pot, and we just, we had everything, man. You had every, that's why I don't really believe in cliques, because I think you were the same way. I mean, I dug the band, I dug the stoners, didn't partake. I dug the gang members. I mean, I was kind of an athlete. That was probably the group I spent the least amount of time with.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, for me, I actually spent my freshman year at a whole different high school,
right,
in Hemet. So I didn't get to Colton until my sophomore year.
Yeah.
So by that time I wasn't a freshman anymore, and didn't have that freshman stamp on me. But yeah, it was great. That's where we met. We kind of were in similar circles.
We did. So you're and I'm tying this back to business. You got to weave into everything.
Yeah.
You got to be a part, of everything. You can't be singular.
You can't silo yourself.
No, man. Is that, I've been real lucky with I've always come through my career when I started becoming, I never planned to be known in the industry. I didn't care. Somebody said something to me this week, and they were like, "Oh man, you're a media, blank, blank, blank." Not a nice word. And media whore, I'll say it. And I said, you know what? That's so funny, because if that person really knew me, I'm not comfortable. It's not my idea. My whole life is to live where I live in the mountains somewhere, preferably Idaho, Montana, something like that, and not be a hermit, but live in a small town with small town values, which is kind of Big Bear, and not be known, and just be a part of my community, still be a part of search and rescue till the day I die, put into my community, and just, our kids are grown, our kids are raised, love my wife, love my dogs, love my house, love our horses, love God and country, and live out my days.
But it's funny, just by doing those things, you rise to the top, because a lot of people maybe don't live out some of those values. So people kind of look at that. And I think there's no way to be a quiet, silent voice when you're standing up for things that matter, and you're and you're supporting other people. To your point about going to high school, I think at the end of the day, I believe we're on this planet to serve one another. And when we have that mentality, those opportunities happen to keep coming to us in different shapes and forms. And it pushes us up to the top of the opportunity list, because, again, our agenda is to serve others, not to be served or get something out of it. If you've lived long enough in the entrepreneurial world, the people that, oh man, I'm going to make it big, I'm going to be number one, they're the ones that are at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah.
They're always clawing up, and nobody, they just can never make it, because it's self-serving. And so my hope is really, as we kind of have our time today, that people walk away from this and they say, what can I do to serve those under my care? The people that work for me, or the people I work for, the client, the coworker, the employee, the employer. What can I do to serve them?
Hey, it comes down to a lot of people, especially in our industry. And I was one of them. Before I say that, I was one of them. Is when we hire people, especially because we're skill-based trade, right? And everybody has their trade secrets. Not anymore. We are like we're like the electrical union. You bring in apprentice, you train them, they become journeymen, they leave. And so my mentality was, we wanted to help people succeed, but I looked at it wrong to the masses of my staff. I needed to help everybody succeed, even the weak ones, even the people we fired. And I've got a couple people in the industry. It's funny because a guy named James worked for us. James is a young guy, probably had massive ADHD. And so him and I, because I've got it. And so we butted heads a little bit. He was a really good soul. And I remember really trying to mentor and coach. Matter of fact, this desk used to be a display for a motorcycle we built. And if you look over on the other side, it's tilted down. And so this was we'd take this to big shows and place this huge motorcycle on display and do demos and stuff, right? So this was underneath. I had an H1 Hummer, in the shop. And this was underneath it because it weighs 600 pounds. And I told him, I said, hey, pull the Hummer out, but make sure not to run over. When you pull it back in, don't hit the display deck. Well, it's angled over there because he ran the Hummer right up along the edge of it and tilted it. And I remember being so angry at him because this thing was so expensive. Now it's the perfect desk. But flash forward, his family's from England. He was born and raised half his life in London. I was always kind to the kid. He was a wreck when he worked with us because he was young, right? But I really enjoyed him, and I tried to mentor and coach him. And many years later, I was going over, I was going over to an event in London, and he saw it online. And he reached out to me. And we went and had lunch, and he'd grown up. And we became really super close. And he sat down and he goes, you know what? He says, you were always patient with me when at times when I don't know why you had patience. And I said, well, maybe there's a little bit of me and you that I saw. And we became, I had 3 trips over to the UK, saw him in all 3 trips. Second trip, I found out he had terminal cancer. Young. And the last time I saw him, this is kind of emotional, was our last trip over before COVID. And he really told me some kind things. I mean, and it was, and I asked him for some constructive input on my leadership and my heart and everything else and the things I had done, and he gave it to me. Some of it wasn't real easy to swallow, but it made me a better person. And I wanted to show him that all of us have to grow. And I'll never forget, we said goodbye to each other, and I took about 20 paces, and I turned around, and he's looking back at me. And we walked back up. We walked back up and gave each other a hug. And it was the last time I saw him. Wow. It was literally just weeks later he passed away.
But, it's a reminder that we have only so much time to invest in those around us.
And ourselves.
And the truth is, we can look back at the clock and say, what happened to the time? We're at an age now, we start looking back like, wow, am I really this old? And has
absolutely.
Really this much time passed?
And it's going to happen to you. I mean, if you're listening, you're 20-something. The only difference between you, if you're 20 and listening to this, or 18 or young, it doesn't matter. The only difference between you and us is we've been young, you haven't been old.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in that. Not that we know it all, because I learned so much from the youth.
We've made a lot more mistakes.
Yeah, we screwed up, man. We just don't want you to we don't want you to follow those. So that leads into this. So SEMA last week, Chris, I was talking to Chris yesterday when my stupid phone would work. We were exhausted. I mean, you spoke at our event, so we reversed it. This year when you spoke at our event, we had it on Saturday at the end of SEMA. This time we put it on Monday before SEMA. So it was pretty cool.
Okay.
We just wanted to see how it would work. Yeah. So we wanted to see how it worked, and it went over well. Then we rolled into SEMA last week. Incredible. 5 takeaways. Chris will add into it. First off, we threw our party. Thank you for everybody, our sponsors. So many people that contributed gifts, giveaways, and then to the detailers. Some of you guys are just starting out, yet you put $10 into it. And I'm happy to say, Chris, what's the total as of last night that we've brought in?
We're hovering right around $28,000 that we raised for SEMA Cares.
So I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to get it up to 30. Is that we're not going to call it. So if you guys want to, you still got an opportunity to make it. This is a big, because this goes straight to SEMA Cares and the foundations for kids that they support, and a huge portion of this goes to the true nonprofits instead of eating up, money. SEMA is big enough to where they don't have to eat this up. So for the detailing industry to come in, and for the biggest suppliers out there in the industry to the littlest new person, or people that are just pro amateurs that don't even do this for a living, that put money into it. It really says something about our industry. Do you have a list, Chris, of some of the people that helped us out and being successful? There's so many. The souls at that event was incredible. I mean, we got all the tribes up. We talked about at the party and having all these different tribes, so we got them up there. This wasn't an effort about me or the Mafia or PNS or Dynabraid. This was an effort for the industry. And you can look at this. As, awesome. PNS was right up there in Dynabraid as primary sponsors,
Yep.
But
these were just some of our sponsors. Like you said, PNS and Dynabraid were our two main sponsors. But our presenting sponsors were IGL, You're Able, Buff and Shine, Ceramic Coatings Inc., Car Candy, and then our silver sponsors were Detailers Roadmap, Angel Wax, Onyx Coatings, Lake Country, Auto Fiber, Ragtop, Color Lock, Dr. Color Chip, Rupes, Aquatech Coatings, Grit Guard, Detailed Image, Will Woolies, SB3 Coatings, and IK Sprayers. And there was more beyond that. There were companies that supplied raffle prizes and and stuff like that. Like Flex comes to mind. They chipped in a bunch of raffle prizes. There was a next what do they call it? Next PTG paint gauge. I'm gonna miss a bunch because I honestly need to just look at all my notes. But all that stuff combined helped us reach that number. Everybody's effort, whether it was big or small, is what helped us accomplish that number.
Yeah, it was amazing. Number two, rolling right into that, the people, man, seeing some of the people I've known for a career and how successful they become, not just in, they've made a lot of money, but they're living such a great life, as they're out there. We've only have so many days. We don't know when our expiration date. And I know I talk about, and some people will think that's because you're older, no, man. I thought that way the first time I had to go dig a dead person out on a rescue mission. I was like, holy shit, this stuff's for real. As you saw, my great grandmother passed away. I saw death like that. I unfortunately lost my childhood dog. But then when you go out and you see tragedy or see what other humans do to other humans, and you see young people that were just snuffed out, it just woke me up to where
sobering moment.
It is.
Yeah.
And it stuck with me. And even with those exposures, I still quite haven't gotten it right. I still, my addiction, I've got addiction issues in my family. I didn't drink or use drugs or even smoke a cigarette because of that reason, but my addiction became overworking.
Sure.
And so many people. Number three from that, the party, all the tribes, over 600 people rotated through the party. We had about a balance at the key time, about 350 people at the facility. Thank you, everybody that showed up. It was unreal. I mean, the people that we were so busy, but looking out in the audience, I tried to see as many people as I could, and the faces were incredible. Our Mafia event,
and that's an important part of it, right? I mean, all the sponsors are awesome, and this couldn't have happened at the level it did without them. But it also can't happen without all the people that just came. People that came, the people that bought raffle tickets, that contributed to the charity, all that stuff. The success can't happen without our guests and without the industry that was there. So,
and all these different brands coming together, and all these. I talked to one young man. There's a shot of it for those that are on video or watch this on YouTube Live.
That was pretty crowded.
That was. I'm glad somebody thought of taking that picture. Is that you that took it?
I think that was me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you did it because it's just incredible. We got to get you out to that. It's a good time. Kevin Halewood, we said a prayer right in the middle it, our good friend Kevin Halewood. Him and his wife are the creators of Mobile Tech Expo. Keep him in your prayers. He's still waiting on a heart transplant. We found out that night. So we stopped the party for a second and prayed.
Wow.
Just said a prayer right there. And I'm sure that freaks some people out, but we're cool.
That's what we do.
That's it. So many of the brands inside the show, we're tied together. I just like to see it's, again, collaborations happening at the top. Is all the nonsense, the bottom feeders, you can see them from a mile away. And now we got every tribe up on that stage at the party. And then at the actual show, the people that came together that's the future of the industry. All these other nonsense people, that want to take and stir the pot you're temporary. I hate to say it. It's temporary. As a matter of fact, you're out of my life. It was a very short-lived stay. So thank you for adjourning and leaving, because I just don't have room for that nonsense, especially after our party and especially after SEMA and seeing the people come together. It was more evidence that now I have less time for nonsense than ever before.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter where it's coming from. And so that's it. So we're going to dive into it. We had a great time. So let's talk. I mean, we were sitting here talking before. Hey, you've never been up here to our place.
I've never been up.
Pretty cool, huh?
The last podcast I did with you, which was, I think, well over a year ago, it was snowing the night before.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how bad it is. And like you said, it was like
Snowmageddon.
Snowmageddon.
It hit us. And we're heading that way. So it's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's great.
Yeah, we're blessed.
Amazing.
We're blessed.
Amazing, right?
It was gorgeous with all the trees.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. So those that don't know is that where our location is we're in the mountains of Southern California. We're about an hour and 20 minutes away from where we grew up, where we met.
Yep.
But we're at almost 7,000 feet. And so you come up into this alpine setting with, it's got a big lake in town and ski areas. We're going to go to one of my favorite spots and hang out and just kind of mind map some stuff out this morning and see that part of it. But it is gorgeous. So it's cool to have you there. We talked for a second. Let's talk real quick, and then we're going to jump into business and change some lives, hopefully. Your book, man. And so customer relationship imprinting. I use, as a matter of fact, in my notes, imprinting's in there. It's something thanks to this book. I go back and I make a list over Thanksgiving and Christmas is my reread month. And so I reread books one a week, and yours is on the 4.
Made the list.
It made the list, and it's going to be
Awesome.
read number 3.
Awesome.
And so talk a little bit, because I want people to understand that are listening in or watching, what your expertise is, and that, you've paid the dues to get where you're at. You're not just sitting in this chair by chance.
Well, it's funny. I actually have a background in marketing and brand development, and I kept seeing some of my marketing efforts fall apart at the 5-yard line with the customer service piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then started doing research and saying, okay, what is it? And realized there wasn't a lot of people talking about customer service, mostly because we all think that we know what it is and we know how to deliver it.
Right. Yeah.
So as I started looking at, people that are known for great customer service, whether it's the Nordstroms, the Chick-fil-A's, the Disney's, kind of what are some of the common things they're doing? And I was able to boil down, they're doing a lot of great things, but all of them are doing 6 things in particular. And so those 6 things became the basis for customer relationship imprinting. And those 6 pieces are really a foundation. And what I call customer relationship imprinting is that idea of we make an imprint on somebody. We think about that baby duckling when it's first born, right? It imprints and it sees whoever it sees first, the imprints on that is their mom or whatever, right? Has such a indelible imprint on them that that's what we want to see in our business with our service. And so I believe if we do, any organization that does these 6 practices in tandem with one another, will achieve this customer relationship imprinting, which by definition is the ability to attract, acquire, and retain more customers who follow you regardless of circumstances. And that last piece is the big deal.
That's it.
Right. Regardless of what's going on in the economy, regardless of what's happening within your industry, regardless of, what kind of resources you have or don't have. If you are delivering exceptional customer service consistently, you'll never be lacking customers that are trying to find you.
Oh, what the heck? Hey, Chris, are we there?
Yeah, why? What happened?
Oh, my screen just went blank. I'm not going to mess with it. Good.
Oh.
We're still there.
Good.
My screen.
Yeah,
my screen.
everything looks good on my side.
Okay, good. Okay. I just can't see. All of a sudden it went. And so I was like, oh no, that's so, okay. So taking it into this. So I look back last night and roughly in my career, when I was really building, when I went from, I call it practicing building businesses, and really my teens and my 20s. I mean, I was building businesses, was successful, sold them, right? But now looking back, I didn't know what I was doing. I was
None
learning.
of us do.
Yeah, right. Well, I was learning what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I look back and I had we had 7 tough economic periods during our buildup. 7. We've got a whole generation in the last 10 years. For most of us, there hasn't been any setbacks like that.
They've only seen COVID, which was, we all kind of sensed it was fairly temporary in terms of the impact, maybe lasting to a degree, but yeah, nothing like the crash of 2008 or
you go back to the tech bubble hit. You had the late 90s. We had a inflation problems. Our spending was out of control. We had all these different things going on, and we just haven't seen that. A lot of people are going to say, "Oh, COVID." Listen, there are so many opportunities that the government gave us to assist. And then there's also the fact that we had people with, it seemed like, endless amounts of disposable cash. And it did hurt some businesses, but let's take the restaurant business, where we're going to go today. They went through it with flying colors because they saw the opportunity and they changed.
Yeah.
And they made sure every time we walked in there to let it be known that they appreciated us. And so that's pretty massive, and it's important. And so I don't think that we've seen a lack of opportunity. I think that we saw probably one of the greatest opportunities of business growth and a money-making period in the history of our economy.
Well, it's interesting. It's all about how you view the world, right? We have so many people that still now, after COVID, people talk about people that want to work. I can't get anybody to do the work, and that's true to a degree. But at some point, there's other reasons that is happening, and so there's a lot of organizations, a lot of businesses that the economy or COVID kind of told on them in how they were treating their customers and how they're treating their employees.
I like that.
And, we've talked before about this idea, if you have employees, is you have to give them a mission beyond their paycheck.
Yep.
And those businesses that are doing that are finding a way to fulfill people's needs, they're the ones that are kind of rising to the surface. And so that's just kind of one of those pieces. But as we look at the horizon and say, I don't know what's happening with the economy, my question would be to anybody is your business, the way you're delivering your service, is it in such a way that people can't live without? It's like the lipstick index. We've talked about this, right?
Absolutely.
Where they gauge economy based upon lipstick sales, right? Every time there's a poor economy or something happening, lipstick sales would go up because women still wanted to feel special. Well, you're in an industry where people get work done oftentimes because it's a luxury. And if we have a poor economy, hopefully they'll still want to do, but they'll definitely want to do that with you if you treat them in a way that makes them feel special. And that's when we get into branding and talk about what branding really is. It's more about how people feel, how they think, and how they interact with you as a business.
Absolutely. So let's talk for a second. We've got a wide range of people. We've got some really seasoned entrepreneurs. We've got some people that are brand new. We have some people that started during COVID. I know I spoke to a couple of people last week at SEMA that were saying, listen to the podcast. I'm a little worried because I'm one of those COVID entrepreneurs. I was like, that's cool. And I said, don't worry about that. The people that made the biggest impact in their businesses in the last since 2008 that I've coached were people that started up in 2008, 2009, 2010, is because they started out lean. They've understood it. They had to because money was tight.
Yeah.
And so they had to give this impeccable experience, and they did. And so if you're new, you've got an opportunity. It's day one or one day. So day one, you start with amazing customer imprinting, customer relationships, the experience, because the people that are more seasoned, have been around a long time, they might have to repeat themselves. They might have gotten into bad habits. And they're saying one day, I'm going to go into extreme customer service experience, where you've got day one, there's the difference.
Well, what's really interesting is most people, and that would maybe even include people that are watching us now, if you ask them, how good of customer service do you provide? Most people watching say, well, we do a pretty good job. And they're probably right. But the difference between pretty good and exceptional, that space, there's something called the 17% factor, where according to American Express, if you and I had the same exact business,
Mm-hmm.
and I was delivering the service with acceptable or good customer service, but you were doing it with exceptional service, according to American Express, people are willing to pay you up to 17% more than they're willing to pay me. So
Wow.
just in that alone, we need to think about, we all practice the 17% factor as customers. We all have places that we spend more money with because they just take good care of us. And so I help your business to be that business. That's kind of what I try to do, is to be the business that people can't live without. They say, I go to them even if it costs a little bit more or it's not as convenient as this other option, because they always take care of me. So that's where the piece starts coming in, when people start thinking, well, maybe my service is pretty good, but it's not exceptional. And that's my encouragement, to really look soberly and honestly at your service and say, okay, what can we do better? Because there's always something that all of us can do better.
So here's so going back. So let's go back through those now. I think I'm going into the ninth. We're going into the ninth slowdown that we've witnessed since we started our entrepreneurial journey, right? I'm going to say the first three freaked me out. Freaked me out, right? It's like, how are we going to survive
The
this?
world's ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it freaked me out, it actually took me off my game, and I became probably a little desperate and a little fearful. You think people pick up that energy?
I do. I think it goes back to what you're about. If you're about looking at the sky and the sky's falling, all of a sudden you're going to respond a certain way. If you're looking at, oh, things are getting bad, I need to huddle and keep all my eggs close to me, it's going to affect your business. If you say, you know what, I don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to continue to do the things that I do to take care of the people that are in my care, somehow those are the people that always start rising to the top, because again, they've looked at how can I serve those around me rather than how can I keep what I have right now. Just a different mentality.
So it's funny. Okay, let's go back to 08. So that was 08 was the eighth, economic impact, right? And so what I thought happened, and the other ones I was always pretty lean. We weren't as big as we were in 08. So in 08, my mentality was I can market myself out of this. I can throw a whole bunch of money in. I can take and get through this, and I'm not going to have to get rid of anybody. The thing I didn't realize is I didn't use my head of what I'd seen in the past, is that I needed to lean down. That's the mistake I made in 08. I needed to lean down, not myself, my own spending, my spending at home, but our business. And I had to realize, okay, look at your team. Do we have weak links? Are we dragging anybody? Is there anybody that's a kind of an anchor that we've been keeping around because just to keep the volume up? And I should have eliminated that. That was a big mistake.
Well, certainly one of the things that is important as we start thinking about leaning down, it's a great term, is what is on that list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, what often goes on that list is people's interaction with their customer, their intimacy and personalizing experience with customer. It actually goes down because they're so busy leaning down their staff and looking at what's going on with them. And again, those may be necessary things they need to do.
Right.
Maybe they lean down their marketing, and all those things are understandable responses. But oftentimes it becomes a mentality. I'm leaning down everything. So I'm not going to have the same interaction because it costs a little bit more to do this for this customer. Or if I add this service for free, like I usually do, I need to just pull back on that and maybe charge for it. And all of a sudden we have a lean down mentality with our service and with the way we treat the people around us. And that's where it starts becoming really tricky. And we have to have the maturity to say, okay, there's things I need to look at and assess and say what needs to change. And all the more I need to deliver and over deliver the experience.
So that's what we did right. So the thing I did is I had, we had a couple people that just shouldn't have been there, and I should have been honest with myself, right? The thing we did right is I pulled back on everything that we were doing and started concentrating on relationships. And so some of the, I'll say some of the, Jim Gogan, Bobby Weiner, Harry Samwith, Doug Parfett, Doug Cunningham, Chris knows what I'm talking about. Those are all founders of the Mafia. I really concentrated on just building relationships up. That's what got us through.
Yeah, and that's what will always get you through those times, because at the end of the day, I named the book Customer Relationship Imprinting for a reason. Oftentimes in business, we're transactional. I do transaction with you. We're just doing business together.
Yep.
But we miss the relationship part. And if we're building a relationship with those around us, it starts becoming some of that, what we talk about, that relational Velcro that kind of keeps people connected to us, because it's relational based. It's not transactional based. If I want a transaction, I can get that anywhere, but a relationship becomes a different thing. And so the more we can do that with our customers and treat it as a relationship. I remember at SEMA last year, I had all of your team get on their phone and actually send a video message to some of their customers, just thanking them for being a customer, right?
So explain that real quick. And you know what, if you're listening to this, even the recorded version, do this, because I'll tell you, it was funny because so Michael took and told us, hey, we send a video message to somebody that you really appreciate that's done business with you. And it's funny because there was two people in the room that I sent a video message to, and there was two people in the room that sent that, not knowing we're going to do it. And I just named names just moments ago.
That's great.
So explain to people, and then my challenge to all of you listening is go do this. As soon as you hear this, go do it.
It's so interesting. We all have the ability to reach out to people with phones, right? We have such the ability to send a text or whatever. If you would just take on a regular basis, maybe put it in your calendar if that's what you need to do, and once a week, some people do this once a day, make a video of just thanking somebody for the business that they bring you and for being a customer, or thank somebody that you work with. And it does two things. One, it reminds you to have an attitude of gratitude and to be a thankful person. And the second thing is it's unexpected. How many people actually send a personalized video thanking their customers? Nobody does that. So be that person. Actually, and the third thing it does is, we talked about offline a little bit about brand, and this idea that repetition creates reputation. And
so say that again.
Yeah, I want to land on that for a minute. So repetition, the things that you and I do on a regular basis, is what creates reputation. If you have a repetition of being thankful, if you have a repetition of doing more for your customers, all of a sudden the reputation takes care of itself. There's so many people looking to better their reputation or give their brand more visibility, and they really have it backwards. It's about serving, and it's about reaching out to others. In fact, again, as Renny said, I would encourage you today, pick one person, pick two people that you are going to send a video message to, just thanking them, not asking them for anything, but just thanking them for being in your life, or thanking them for letting you do business with them. Because that's really the stuff that starts turning us into what we were really talking about earlier, is this idea of our reputation as we get deeper into this is based upon people's repetition, their experience with us.
Okay, so let's go one. We're going to go a little deeper. So attitude of gratitude. So I read something last year and about a habit that somebody, I can't even remember who it was, I wish I could give credit, is they said right before they went to bed, is they picked three things out there really thankful for from that day.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that almost a year ago, about 9 months ago. God, man, it really it really changed. Like I'd go to bed with all these thoughts spinning through my head, and that stopped. I mean, 90% of it stopped. The only time I have a hard time sleeping now is when I fail to do that.
You know, it's funny. I kind of do the opposite in the morning. Before I get out of bed, I don't get out of bed until I can name 3 things and say, Lord, I'm thankful for these 3 things.
Yep.
And it's just ignites my day and kind of starts my day.
So then I'm going through my notes from when you spoke to our group, okay, about 6 months ago. I'm going through and I'm rereading. I'm a rereader. You know, it's the ADD in me. And I had written that down. I circled it. You know, I circled it. And so starting then, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd say, okay, man above, these are the 3 things that I really want to make an impact on today. I want to be thankful tonight for these 3 things. Give me the strength and the courage. And some of them are difficult. So I'll share this morning is I wanted to show gratitude towards my wife. She went over the top last week. I wanted to show gratitude and appreciation for you being here. And then I wanted you and I combine to make an impact on one person's life. It's just one person takes something away. And those 2 habits have become, okay, so every morning we get up. Uh-oh. Chris, we still there?
You're still here. Audio's still good, but your picture froze.
Oh boy. Well, that's not good.
Now it just came back.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know what's going on with my computer. It's really screwing up. But we're not going to worry about it. We'll just keep going. How's that? So I've got all kinds of stuff popping up on my screen. Good. So cool. So when I fail to do one of those items, it shows in all of my life. When I do those items, I don't know if it's just like, you know, the mind's a powerful thing. Science can't reproduce. I mean, they can't even come close. This computer is amazing, right? I mean, I'm getting ready to order Diane a brand new computer, and I'm looking at, this is only a year old. And so I'm looking at how much they've evolved in a year, right? They still can't even not remotely even compete with what's inside of our big noggins, you know?
But really what you're talking about is intentionality, right? If we're intentional about the things that we're doing and thinking about, we're intentional about the people that are in our life, we're intentional about the people that we're reaching out to, it becomes something different than just letting life happen to us, or we'll do good to people as we get the opportunity. If we're intentionally looking to enrich other people's lives,
oh man,
that's really what you're
absolutely. And last week's a testimony to that is that you I wish people could get into my. There was a couple of people that came up, really young entrepreneurs, and when I mean young entrepreneurs, some of them are older. Some of them are older than you or I, you know, but they're new at the entrepreneur segment. And some of the cool things that were said, the passion that was shared. So I had one couple, you know, they're a team, and they asked me. They said, you know, we're a little fearful of this economy. And I said, don't be fearful because it's going to come out. And I said, be prepared. If you have to take a job, take it. And I said, in 2008, I said, it got ugly. Is that by 2010, I had spent so much money on retaining my staff and throwing money every direction. I'd been out market any slowdown before. And I realized right then and there that I was just going to have to build it on relationships and at all cost save this business because it was a solid, good business. And so once I had that attitude, things turned.
Well, let's talk about that. I would encourage anybody watching this as we think about the economy and even outside of the economy, but what is your irreducible minimum?
Right. Ooh, I like that.
What is that? What is it that you can lean down and get down to the bare minimum, not to just survive? I don't want to get in a survival mentality, but the irreducible minimum says these are the things that I can do. And I guarantee you, if you put relationships at the top of your list, that it will never leave that list of the irreducible minimum. You'll never be lacking because as you build on relationships, it's a foundation that is like no other.
Mm-hmm.
because it's let this be sustained for years, even though we don't see each other every day.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. We all know that, but we get so busy in business. I got to hustle more business. I got to get new business. Develop the relationships you have in front of you.
I love it.
That's what we're responsible for today.
And tie that into an experience. And a lot of people think when they're having an experience is that you go into, I'm not a real fast food person, but I love Chick-fil-A, is that you go in, I've only had one. I don't eat there a lot because thank God we don't have one close by. But I go in there because I've only had one off experience, not even a bad one. It was off. And it was all during the craziness of COVID, right? They're having the same problems everybody across. They couldn't find people, but yet they did, And
why is that?
Yeah.
You think about some of these organizations when the economy is challenging or whatever, it's because they have a couple things. One, they attract people that value relationship and service. Number two, and maybe it should be number one, is none of it happens by accident. They train this into the DNA of their people. And if we want to sit here and say, I give pretty good service, I don't really, it's good to have tips or whatever, but I do a good job, we're missing the point. We have organizations that Disney has something called the Disney Institute that they take their people through. We have organizations like In-N-Out, where as you work your way through In-N-Out trying to get raises, you're watching videos that are about the company's policies, but about their vision. None of it happens by accident. So I would encourage people, if you want to be great at service and even better at relationship, build it into your day by training, read books, watch podcasts, do things that are about training or about building relationships, because truth be told, that's the stuff that matters. That's the attractant to not only customers, but other business leaders.
It's funny, an old boss of mine, he used to tell me that everything in life is down to sales. Everything. And even, all three of us that are on right now, we're all three married, right? Well, what did we try to do when we met our wives?
Right.
Dude, I don't know about you guys. It was a sales pitch, man. I mean, I married up, right?
So did I.
And I still got to do the sales.
I showed my picture of my wife to somebody the other day, and they're like, "Huh, really?"
Yeah, and you're like, "What the hell's happening?"
I know.
It's like, come on, man. It's okay.
I'm a good salesman.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for somebody to ask me, is this your daughter? Then I'm gonna lose my shit. But everything in my life was a sales opportunity, but my boss used to say, never get caught selling. So a lot of people don't understand that. You've got to be so organically and so naturally comfortable with what it is you're doing and with yourself that it doesn't come across as a pitch or a sales.
Well, let me flip that a little bit. Let me change that. And I'm gonna push back a little bit.
Okay.
I would say, and you and I have talked a little bit, Jeffrey Gittimore, who's the king of sales, right?
I love this guy.
So Jeffrey was instrumental in kind of connected me to publisher and that whole thing. And he is all about selling. So I have a great respect for sales, and I'm a salesman by nature. I remember my first sales job was I would go with my dad to the swap meet. Mm-hmm. And when he was out looking for car parts, I would sell anything I sold at our little booth. I got to keep the money, so I became an instant salesman. Yeah, when I was like 10, right? So I'm all about sales, but I will say this. I don't think everything's about sales. Mm-hmm. I think everything's about relationship. Mm. And if you can build relationships, you will build sales.
I like that.
And especially as we get into tight economies, or even as we get older, you realize I want to do business with people I want to do business with. Life's too short to deal with people that are jerks or just to get a sale. And I get that sometimes we have customers that are not our favorite customers. But the reality is we want to do business based upon relationship, because that's the stuff that lasts. That's the stuff that stands. And relationships will turn into sales.
Absolutely. The other thing is we had amazing, I'll tell you a true story is we started a new company, a transportation and executive protection company back in 2001. It took us a year to get licensing. It was a really complicated city to do business in. It was involved. We had to have permits for the airport. If you know anything about airports, they're real politically connected. It takes a lot, to get all that. So it took us about a year and about $65,000 just
to get in the game.
Just to get into the game, right? So we get into it, and we had a company that we really took and aimed at. That was going to be our primary. We knew that their bucket of clients, which is a who's of clients, that we had to take and impress them. Well, they're out of New York, right? So they're an investment firm. And if you want to look this up as Allen and Company, so look up Allen and Company, Sun Valley, Idaho. That's exactly what, and you're going to see the level of clients they have. So our first month with them, when they had their first event, is I've got Warren Buffett transporting him. No security. We were a security to get him up to location. Basically, we're a car, I'm sitting here with Warren Buffett in the back seat, right?
How do you not ask questions?
Oh, I did. I asked one. And what I asked him is, I said, if you had one piece of advice for a young entrepreneur, what would it be? And he pulled out I've told this 100 times. If it's not written, it's not happening. He pulled out a little notebook and he says, this is my dream book. You can type everything you want, but unless you take and imprint this into your head by physically writing it. That's how humans, we don't do this as well. When we write it out, when we have to take the energy to write it out, is it makes sense.
The other thing, when you look at the kind of the pyramid of how we learn, one of the things that really happens to help us to learn something and really make a mark on us is teach it to others.
Absolutely.
And service is such a great piece for that, because if I can serve the people around me, I can hey, this is how we take care of a customer. Hey, this is how we take care of our family. This is how we do. And none of us get it all right, but the idea, if we're teaching it, we're learning it more than anybody.
I dig it.
Yeah.
I absolutely
And you're a
it.
trainer.
Yep.
You learn more than anybody when you're doing a session.
Well, it's funny because go back to 2014, 15. I've shot, I qualified in, the military. I've done a lot of shooting. Diane and I love to shoot, but I'm not a marksman. I'm not a sniper. I'm not any of that. Well, we're putting out so many National Guards, people from California, that they were using a lot of us. I had to go become a safety range officer with the Marine Corps, because the Guard was using the Marine Corps ranges. And I learned more in those days of being at the range teaching. Here I was, I'm not that great, but I'm dealing with people that hadn't shot a weapon since boot and only shoot once a year. Well, I shoot a lot more than that, right? But once I started teaching that, the fundamentals and so forth, they put a lot of money into helping us learn how to teach too.
Maybe that's the takeaway for everybody today. Sit down and write 10 things about service that you want to teach others. Spend some time doing that, because you'll find, first of all, we know a few things, but when we think about 10 things, that's a little bit harder. And if we start deep diving into it, we'll start realizing, wow, there's a lot that I could do. None of it's beyond our reach. In fact, one of the reasons I even wrote the book, I wrote it in such a way is it's bottom shelf. It's very easy to understand, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of customer service books out there that are really heady and really data driven, which are great. But maybe that's the takeaway, to sit here. If you want to really learn service and learn how to serve your customer, write 10 things down of how you're going to do that, and
brilliant.
Greet that in the morning. Put that on your phone. Am I doing these 10 things?
Right. And I've got a couple different apps. I'm constantly learning. I can't get enough. And I think a lot of people, as you age, you either go away from that or you gravitate towards it. The older I've gotten, each year that spins by is my need, not even desire, my need for more knowledge increases dramatically. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I've set myself up and it's a habit, or maybe it's an addiction, of just wanting to learn more. But I can't ever. And then teaching. So I was telling Chris, he saw a charge come through on my credit card yesterday, and I went back through some of my original notes. We had a class coming in. I went all the way back to the era of 2010, a dozen years ago, and said, okay, what was I teaching back then, and what were some things that maybe slipped by? Maybe we thought there was some newfangled technology. Is there anything that I'm missing now that just worked really well back then? And sure enough, there was one thing that stood out, and I'm like, why the heck did we ever give that up?
Yeah,
so
we get like the shiny object onto the next thing.
Absolutely.
And,
and so with that is the same thing. Who do you teach? Well, you first off teach yourself. You've got to teach yourself. Second off, anybody that's involved in your company in any way, you've got to take and have. I was at a shop in Utah,
and you are teaching them by every day that you don't teach them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You're showing them that it doesn't matter. You're showing them that, well, what's really important is the task and not the relationship or not the person. And so we need to be careful because we're always teaching.
Yep, absolutely. Right? So here's the amazing. So jump back to when we started that company. So 2001, we start out and that company is going. I mean, it is going. So Allen & Company's utilizing us. We have celebrities utilizing us. We got the general public. It blossomed in months. So we're getting our investment back. 9/11 happens. Air travel stops. Travel stops. I had Herb Allen, the leader of Allen & Company, call me up one day and he goes, look, we've never officially met, but my staff is really afraid that you just started this company and we need your services. We are so impressed with what you're doing with our clients and our team that I'm sending you a $50,000 check. $25,000 of that is a gift for your company because you've done so well.
Wow.
$25,000 of it's going to be a credit. I will use that credit up by January 1st. We want to keep you alive.
Wow.
What made him call?
It wasn't your transactions.
It wasn't our transactions. Yeah. It was our experiences. It was how much we cared.
Yeah.
It was taking a personal interest. And in 08, when that happened, I had to go back to that because I was about, okay, I got to get transactions in, right? I've got all these people.
And we do. That's part of doing business. We have to do transactions.
But what I didn't look at is I had key staff that I should have been looking at them and me. And everybody else, if they're not a magnet, if they're staying around for a paycheck, this is big. If they're staying around for a paycheck, they probably need to go. Let them go get another job. Because if it's your survival and it's not, don't hurt yourself. Don't get it to where your schedule's all screwed up. If you can't provide the service, they're going to go find it somewhere else. Our attention span. But here's the other thing is what I love with Michael, what he's sharing with us. When you implant yourself in your experiences, what made Disney was those experiences and those interactions. People will stick by you, and Herb Allen is they will call you up. They're going to want to take and support you. We've got a really good friend of ours that we have a project that we're going to do for next. We're moving our horses here. So we're getting the property ready. I know that he's going to be slowing down. So I put a call into him yesterday and said, look hey, if it's slowing down in winter and spring, you need to let me know ASAP before I pull this trigger with somebody else. I know this isn't what you do typically, but if it's keeping you busy, he calls back and he goes, it's funny because the funnels, I'm not getting as much in and it looks like I might be really slow starting in about February. That was because he made an impact.
Yeah.
And so I want to, customers are going to reach out and they're going to support you. But if you don't have these things going right now, and if you don't know what admit yourself, are you just there taking a check?
Well, and you bring up an interesting point because I don't want to confuse people by saying if you make it all about relationships, then that's a means to an end. I'm going to do the relationships so I'll get more money from you. I'm going to do the relationships so you'll just do more business with me. It's not evil, wicked, and bad, but you need to do the relationship part because it's valuable.
Absolutely.
In and of itself. The business will come out of it.
Right.
And in fact, I would encourage everybody to write down, send yourself a text right now that says it's all about relationships, because we could summarize everything that we're talking about, that it's all about relationships. Because at the end of the day, we've talked before about, all of us have an expiration date. And at the end of it all, it's really who we loved, who loved us, and I believe what we did for Jesus. It's really those three pieces.
Yeah.
And that's all based on relationship.
Yesterday, we have relationships with 4 banks. Okay. I've always been, my grandma grew up through the Great Depression, kind of scatter our investments a little bit. Right. But we're in the last 3 weeks, I've gone into the 3 banks that we have strong relationships with. And it was such an honor for me to be in their presence. Now, the bank I went in and met with yesterday, it was such an honor for them to earn my presence. You get the difference?
Yeah.
Is those 3 banks that I've got money there with them, treated us like dog poop on the bottom of a shoe. And I went into, and I'll name it, Chase Bank yesterday. I went in a couple weeks ago to find out what we need to do. We changed some things up. They put me with the specialist. They set an appointment. Okay. And I said, man, I'd love to get it done today. And she goes, unfortunately, this account's going to be an important one to us. We only have 2 people that we trust to set this up the right way with you. And we want it done right. And so, we're not a fast turn bank, as we really want to take and do things right and study your accounts, study what we need. And she says, so how about, does that sound good? Well, how can you argue that they're going to do a better job? And so all of a sudden, my unwillingness to wait became a very much a willingness to wait.
Absolutely. Because they were creating the understanding that they wanted to build trust in your value.
Absolutely. Then I walk in yesterday. I don't get an appointment with one person. I get an appointment with the gal that sets up the accounts. So she's entering data. I have a relationship management manager there, and I had a private banking manager there. And they don't know what I'm going to do.
Sure.
They have no idea. And so I'm hitting them up. We talked before we came on. Is Chase's chairman of the board just sold off $148 million. So I hit him with that. I said, how you guys handling this, man? I mean, it wasn't good press for you guys. And they said, we're going to be honest. We see what's coming. Yeah. And he saw what's coming, and he's to the point he's at the retirement age. We know it's going to slow down. And so we are preparing. So what he did is what he did. He had to do what he had to do. But they are so dedicated. The experience, the difference between, honestly, I've dealt with a lot of banks. I've never been treated with so much respect and had such an amazing experience.
Well, it's interesting. There's so often the Moore mentality, and the Moore mentality says somebody needs me to do a job for them. I need more work. I can do more, and we end up delivering a poor experience.
Absolutely.
What they told you yesterday was, we want your business, but in order for us to do it in a way that you're going to be happy and that we feel like we've done right by you, this is what it'll take. When somebody says that, like, you have many people here maybe are in the detail industry, right?
Right.
It'd be better to say, I can't do your vehicle tomorrow because I want to really give it the attention it needs.
Absolutely.
And if you can give me another day, I think you'll be pleased with that. You'll get that customer.
Yep.
Because they don't just want you, the wash and dry guys are everywhere, but they want somebody to really, detail a car and give you that service.
Right.
Every time they'll say, oh, absolutely, wait for it. Why? Because you're over delivering.
Last week we're at
that's the stuff that builds a relationship.
It is. And it's funny because last week I had somebody, it's everybody's right now, is the request so they want us to attend an event. And I've got this whole theory going into next year is that just no squeeze, right? Two times, this is a good illustration that we'll share with you, is that we had 2 demands that people wanted it right now. And I said, I told Chris this yesterday, is, man, if we keep squeezing, it just turns into a whole year of squeezing. And then I get to the end of the year and I say the same thing, is that I didn't have a vacation with my wife. We work. And I'm all about hard work, but I'm more about smart work. And so what I did is, as soon as they requested that at the event, I said, I didn't say no.
Don't ever say no.
Didn't say no. But what I did say, and I said, unfortunately, my winter and spring is completely packed. But you're looking into April, May, we can make that happen. And in my mind, I'm going, what's going to be the pushback? And they go, oh, okay, that works. That works great.
Yeah.
There wasn't any pushback. The same thing as I've got another opportunity. And I said, hey, it's going to have to wait until fall. Oh God, that's a great time for us.
Yeah.
So my perception was, ooh,
we put that on ourselves.
Yeah,
I got to give it to them.
I got to get it to them now.
Yeah.
And really they might've been thinking that, and I didn't reason with them. I didn't just like, oh my God, I can't, I'm too busy. I don't like that. I don't even like that word, right? Is I just kindly said, this is when I can make it happen.
If you are giving a valuable service and doing it in such a way that people understand they're getting the best that can be given, right? They'll wait for it.
They will.
And we do that, right? We have places we do business with. A couple of years ago, there was a guy that did front end alignments out in the Inland Empire. And I just happened to roll into his place, and I heard the way he talked to potential customers, and it was amazing. So he had tons of cars. All he did was front end alignments. His whole business is doing front end alignments. And he would have people come in, I really need this alignment done today. He goes, well, I can see that that you're wanting it done now. He goes, what I do is I'll look, and he walks them through the process of what he does. He goes, to do that and to really align your car, I'm going to need you to come back next week. Well, I can't come back next week. Well, okay, that's okay. There's several other places you can go. Well, when next week could I come?
That's exactly
because basically they were saying, I'm going to give you a valuable service. And he was educating this person along the way. Here's what you need. Here's how I know you need this just by looking at your car briefly.
Ooh, okay. So many times people lead into, when people put a demand on you, they lead into why they can't. Yeah. Instead, explain your services and why you're valuable for them to wait.
People always wait for value. Always. All of us will.
I love that. That is, instead of saying, well, we're so busy right now, that's not the way to go into that conversation. I mean, what you say is look at, this is really special to us. This is what we do, alignments, and your car needs this, this, and this. And to do that, we're in demand, we're in demand. Also, I need to order parts for you and everything else, get everything going. So we don't want anything to slack once you're here. So unfortunately, it's not a right now service, but in 7 days, we can get you in, get you done the right way.
People will always wait for value.
Man,
if you and I decided we're going to go out to a steak dinner in LA, the best steak that LA has to offer, and we got there and they said, oh, it's going to be a 2-hour wait, we wouldn't say, let's just have a hot dog on the street.
Right.
We'll wait for it because that's what we're wanting. We know that's what we want.
Oh yeah. You go to Chick-fil-A, and the one in Redlands closed down. You know why? They had too much traffic. They're building a new site that can handle the traffic. I mean, what a great problem to have for a business.
I was talking to Gittimore, and he was talking about how there was a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and just across the street was a Chick-fil-A. And he said nobody was at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and for me, chicken's I don't know, it's not that great a chicken, but they provide such a great service.
Absolutely,
the whole "it's my pleasure," like they've built into the lexicon of service. It's my pleasure,
right?
It's my pleasure, And so if we can do that with our business, if we can find a way to create experiences, to your earlier point, that are different than everybody else, one of the ways that we can do that, a lot of people forget about, is we need to personalize the experience. Everybody has this, especially when we get into work like you do in the detail industry, there's a process to it. And so it starts feeling like one size fits all, but the truth is one size fits one. And so I heard this great story of this idea of personalizing, regardless of what we do what we do for business. And it was this guy who was a New York City waiter. And so it just proves that whatever you're doing, you can personalize an experience. And he worked at a 4-star restaurant, and he had 4 of these people at his table, and they were foodies from out of state. And they were talking about how, it's been so great. We got to eat at all our favorite restaurants. And one person said, the only regret is I really wish we could have had a New York City hot dogs in New York. This waiter went to the back, hung up his stuff, ran out the front door.
How cool is that?
Found a cart, bought some hot dogs, and brought to their table, which is, by the way, a huge no-no in the restaurant industry.
Yep.
He brings in the hot dogs and he says this. He goes, so there are no culinary regrets. I give you a New York City hot dog.
Wow.
And what he said, you know what's interesting about that experience? He goes, I could have given them buckets of caviar and the best champagne that we had. He goes, it wouldn't have the impact of giving them what they wanted, because it was personalizing that experience. And so
I bet that was an expensive hot dog. Didn't matter at that point.
No, he said no, he gave it to him.
Wow.
He gave it to him. He was personalizing the experience. Now, those people will go home, they may forget his name, but they will never forget the restaurant that did that for them.
Never.
So as we think about the service we provide, whatever those services are, we have to figure out how to personalize it. Because if we personalize it, all of a sudden it becomes something entirely different, something relationally based, it becomes something, unique to that customer. We have to pick up on the cues.
So, people in big cities, New York, first time in New York City, right? I want to go get a dirty dog. It's what they call them. And, it's a fast-paced city, right? I mean, everybody's moving. So I walk up to this cart, and a friend of mine had told me, hey, you want to go to this cart, this guy, this is the one, right?
And the carts in New York, like, okay, this is my cart. I've been here for 30 years.
Yeah.
If they die or retire, that people move up one street.
It's hardcore business. So I go up, and this guy's, he's got, a Brooklyn, New York accent, Italian accent. And I walk up, and I told him, man, it's my first one. He goes, where are you from? I said, California. He goes, okay, you don't know how to order a dirty dog. He goes, I'm going to make it for you the way it should be made. That was the best hot dog I've ever had in my life, man. I sat there, I went around the corner, ate one, came back, got another one, said, make it the same way. It was just incredible.
Hit me again.
And again, something as simple as a hot dog became extraordinary. Something is Chase going to the bank. I mean, I already got a text while we're on here from the manager of our account saying what a pleasure it was. And with this person, that's his work cell phone, and you know what? The thing I love that we haven't talked about is the building of this relationships and the experience can cost you nothing.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that people forget is kindness is currency. And at the end of the day, we're not kind because it's currency, but the truth is the more we go out of our way, and this is what I said about earlier of picking up on some of the cues. If you are, especially, I mean, if you're working in somebody's home or you're working with somebody's car, you've been given all these clues of what their life is really about by what's in the ashtray. Maybe they have pictures of their kids, or maybe they have, a pass to Disneyland in the window. You kind of know, what can you do that would be unique to each one of your customers that maybe it's a little extra thing you can do for them. Who knows?
Or say to them.
It's the simple things of just, again, one size fits one, not one size fits all. We have to personalize experience. We have to pick up on the cues that are coming. So yesterday, I'm in there. This is really important. These people are doing a sales pitch, right? But I didn't feel I was getting sold, right? Because they were building relationships.
Yeah. So I said something about one of them said something about their dog that they'd just gotten a puppy. I said, oh, what kind of puppy? And so showed me pictures, and do you have dogs, right? And I tell people, key in on this. And I said, yeah, we have 4. We just lost one. We had 5, but we lost one. And they're like, oh, so next thing they do, and they said, well, can we see a picture of your dogs? What's that doing?
Right.
It's just buttering me up, man. I mean, so then they're like, I said something, and I said, well, God, if I'm going to show you a picture of my dogs, I got to show you a picture of my horses, and they just played. I say play along. They took an interest, and can you guys already see it? I made that relationship less than 24 hours ago. Do I sound pretty cemented with them?
It's done deal.
It's done.
And
until they fail. If they fail,
one of the things that businesses that supply great customer experiences, they have that what I call relational Velcro, which is they create more meaningful interactions with their customers. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they did. It was more meaningful because they tapped into something that was important to you outside of business.
And the programs they showed me, so they go, listen, we're going to show you our whole menu. And I love that because it's something that we started teaching, about a couple of years ago. Show everybody the whole menu. You don't know who they are. They might come in a Toyota minivan, but that minivan, they might be planning on keeping it for 8-10 years. And so that superior service.
Or they might have a really nice car sitting in
a
weekend ride. Sitting in there.
Exactly.
Garage, yeah.
And so we're going to show you ideally where we think we need to place you account-wise, and then we'll show you everything else. So they showed me that, and as they're going through the other ones, I stopped them. I said, no, I'm good. Let's just go with that one. It was a more expensive. There was tie-ins to that. And not that it cost me, but there was tie-ins to it, and it was mutually beneficial. They added conveniences into that level that did cost a little bit up front, but that continued usage of those things was absolutely free. But the convenience of it is they're covering their cost. They're reducing their workload. they're making my life easier.
Now, which came first, the conversation about the dogs and everything, or what you just said?
The dogs.
So what happened is they established trust.
They did. They
once they established trust, you're like, okay, this looks better.
I didn't feel like I was there
Yeah.
for a banking relationship.
Right.
I felt like, I could have had lunch with any of these people and been comfortable. We talked business. Here's the other important thing. All of these, the one gentleman that came in that's got our account now, and I can't, Kevin is his name. I met less than 24 hours ago and I pulled his name up that quickly, right? Right before we're just concluding everything, and he goes, I have a feeling that that you've had some interesting clients. What piece of advice has somebody else shared with you that you'd share with me?
What a great question.
And I went, well, and I shared a story. What did he do is that he paid homage that I'm 20 years older than him.
Yeah.
Is he showed respect towards wisdom. And he was seeking really what he's after. That wasn't a sales move at all. That was an educational opportunity.
Must be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's building himself up. Whatever's next on his radar, he's educating himself to go to the next level. And so, I did that with many clients, is that I do the exact same thing. Somebody coached him or naturally he picked it up, but I would always, somebody that had a life that I kind of like, that I can envision. And really Tom Lentz I've mentioned Tom so many times. Tom's a guy now. I am now his age. I'm at the point he was 25 years ago. So, here I was in my 20s and, late 20s, early 30s. And he was, in his 50s. And now I've actually built the life that he had.
Yeah.
Is that I've gotten to that point. And so guys like us, all we want to do is go out and we want you all, we can't cut it down. We can't, if you're 20 and listening to this, I can't get you there by the time you're 25. Just not going to happen. But I might be able to get you there if you're really on it, by the time you're 35,
But the truth is, and this is one of the things that's rarely talked about in these circles of entrepreneurship, is it's always about the hustle and working harder and working longer and all that stuff. And that's great. But humility, the humility to ask the questions. And I think, you and I would both agree, we learn the most when we say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here, or I need some help with this. I remember years ago, it was my first week. I was a young guy as a youth pastor. I was a youth pastor. And somebody in the church said, hey, we have a house which you can take your 30 high school you've known for a week to the river on a trip.
Wow.
I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I call another guy that I had met, relationships, another pastor, older guy. I said, I'm supposed to do this trip. I don't know what I'm doing. And he sent me a whole guide. Here's how you do it. Right. And the humility that it took for me, and some of it was honestly just desperation more than humility, gave me a foundation to understand what's going on. And there's so many people today that's like, yeah, they're doing their thing, but I'm doing it my way. And that's the school of hard knocks.
Oh, yeah, man.
But that kid, Kevin, that comes to you and says, give me a piece of advice, he's going to be all right, And the people that come alongside and even at our age, like I'm still asking questions.
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody that will provide an answer, I'll say, hey, what about this? What about that? How do I do this? I'm not sure. I've done it this way for so long, or I've tried this. We have a mutual friend that I just got off a call. We have a standing call every Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. and we ask each other some of those questions. And it takes humility to do that. And I say, well, let me tell you what I'm doing.
Well, I think
that's a big deal.
I think that's a good spot to exit out of here.
Yeah.
With this, is that you just nailed it. Wisdom influences youth, and youth influences wisdom. Both of those feed each other. And I think it's really important with that. So
and humility is the glue that ties all that together.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dude, this rocks, man. So, awesome. Hey, Chris, that's all we got, man. Let's end it there. And I want to thank you all. We had this is great. It's fantastic. We got a few more hours though. We're going to hammer some stuff out.
Yep.
Hey, we want to take it again. Thank you all for coming in. This is pretty special.
Yep. I was going to say it's too bad that's it, because it was all really good. This is, I'm sitting here behind the scenes and I'm going to go re-listen. So.
Right. No, we wanted this conversation. Mike and I are going to go brainstorm some stuff. We got
cause some trouble together.
We're going to go cause some trouble and figure out, and again, here we are into our careers, but we are looking at ways of still building and influencing and changing lives, including our own. And so it's not never feel guilty for making a profit. That's never feel guilty about that, especially if it's an honest profit. So, hey, take care. I get to go to the chiropractor. Mike's going with me, and then we're going to go find some trouble.
Awesome.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Be blessed. We'll see you later.
See you guys.